Hi team, good to see you. Fantastic. Today, talking about crypto. We're going to be discussing, is it actually money? Does it really pass the test with regards to economics and whether it is actually money? All right, that's what we're going to be looking at. So stick around. All right, here we go. Let's have a look. The question everyone has a personal take on, okay? Do you believe in crypto? Not the superdog, all right? Is it your cousin who's cornered you at Christmas dinner talking about crypto and the exchange and how much money? Is it the one person at school who bought some Dogecoin because Elon tweeted a meme and now won't stop talking about it? What about the financial journalists? They've written about Bitcoin and their obituary and the death of Bitcoin roughly 400 times since 2014. Maybe it's your economics teacher who is quietly hoping it doesn't come up in the exam. Here's what's actually rare. Someone applying the proper economic definition of money to cryptocurrency and following the argument wherever it leads without a predetermined conclusion. That's what we're doing today, right? This is Econ Teach NZ. I don't own crypto. And I'm not going to tell you whether you should or should not buy crypto, but I'm going to give you the analytical framework to think about it properly, which in an exam and in life is worth considerably more than anyone's hot take. So let's run the test. Here we go, the test. We've got the three functions of money, okay? Money, as your IB and IGCSE syllabuses define it, has three core functions. The first one is as a medium of exchange. Can you use it to buy things? The store of value, does it hold its purchasing power over time? And thirdly, the unit of account. Can you price things in it consistently? So let's run Bitcoin, okay? The most established of the cryptocurrencies through each one. Is it a medium of exchange? Technically, yes. El Salvador made it a legal tender in 2021. You can pay for certain things on different platforms with it. Some businesses will accept it, but, and this is a substantial but, transaction speeds are slow, fees are unpredictable, and the vast majority of retailers actually don't accept it. Most people who own Bitcoin never actually spend it on goods and services in particular. The potential is a medium of exchange. The practice for everyday transactions is marginal at best, so we're going to give them partial credit. Store of value, this is where it gets a bit spicy. Bitcoin went from around 3,000 USD in 2019 to nearly 69,000 in November of 2021. That sounded good. Then it crashed to below 17,000 USD again by late 2022. If you would have bought at the peak and then needed to spend it 6 months later, you would have lost around 75% of your purchasing power. Gold, which also pays no interest, has held its real value relatively well across centuries. Volatile assets make poor stores of value, and that's not controversial. So that's a significant fail on function 2. What about the unit of account? Almost nobody prices goods and services in Bitcoin. You price in dollars or pounds, and then you're going to convert perhaps at that point of transaction. Even when you've got the major crypto exchanges displaying prices, they display them in USD. That tells you something important, so therefore it is a fail also on function 3. Okay. Now let's have a look at the steel man approach, okay? All right, I did promise rigor, so here we go. Let's properly steel man the crypto argument, because there is genuine economic cases out there, and dismissing it lazily would be intellectually dishonest. So argument number 1, fiat money has its own store of value problem. If you have a look at the previous video about the Weimar Republic, about Zimbabwe having inflation, hyperinflation, about 11% inflation in the UK in 2022, fiat currencies do lose their purchasing power, and sometimes catastrophically. Bitcoin's supply is supposedly mathematically capped at 21 million coins. No government can print more. No central bank can expand its supply. For someone in Argentina, where the peso has lost around about 90% of its real value in a decade, a volatile cryptocurrency might actually genuinely be a better store of value than their official currency. But context is everything. Let's have a look at argument 2. It is the network that is the value. The US dollar isn't valuable because of the paper it's printed on. It's valuable because of that entire network, the institutions, the legal frameworks, the trading relationships, the debt requirements, the accumulated trust behind it. Crypto skeptics will tell you that Bitcoin is backed by nothing, but fiat currency is ultimately backed by the same thing, the belief in the network, the belief in the debt payments that are able to be made by it. Bitcoin's network is, however, younger and smaller, but the structural argument is identical. All right? Argument 3, we might be judging it too early. The internet in 1994 looked nothing like the internet in 2024. Early skeptics pointed to dial-up speeds, limited use cases, and the dot-com crash as evidence that the internet was going to be a passing fad. They were partially right about the short run and spectacularly wrong about the long run. They were legitimate arguments. Acknowledge them, weigh them up. That's what good economists do. So where does the evidence actually leave us? All right. Bitcoin in its current form is better described as a speculative asset than it is as money. It fails in the store of value due to volatility. It mostly fails on the unit of account. Its uses as a medium of exchange remain marginal in most economies. That doesn't mean it can never evolve into something closer to money. The functions of money aren't binary. They exist on a spectrum, and crypto's position on that spectrum is genuinely shifting. What we can say with confidence is this: crypto is a live, real-time experiment into what happens when you attempt to create money without an institutional backing. And the results so far suggest that institutional trust and the debt obligations that come with that is considerably harder to replace than the early cryptocurrency community assumed. So we had an FTX collapse in 2022. This is the perfect illustration. It was a major exchange built on trust in its founder's reputation. It collapsed the moment that trust evaporated. Sound familiar? That's exactly what can happen to fiat currencies when the governments lose their credibility, right? Those debt obligations that we talked about. The mechanism is identical, which tells you something important about what money fundamentally is, right? So here's your exam angle. This is a live current case study for the functions of money, the role of institutional trust, and of the distinction between commodity, fiat, and speculative assets, right? Any exam paper written over the next few years will need to reference this space, right? So maybe having some understanding of this would be good, okay? The best approach to crypto is the same approach that you take to every economic question, not a predetermined conclusion, but using the right analytical tools and using them honestly. Run the test. Acknowledge the steel map. Follow the evidence. Whether crypto ends up being the future of global money or the 21st century's equivalent of tulip mania, and serious economists do sit on both sides of the debate. Right? The process of analysing it rigorously is genuinely good economics practice. Right, this is Econ Teach NZ. So here's your comment. Is Bitcoin money? Use those three functions, make your argument. I'll engage with the most interesting comments, all right? Please do like, comment, subscribe. We're heading close to 20,000, all right? 20,000 subscribers, which is fantastic, all right? But we need more of you to hit that like, comment, and subscribe button. Next week, we're going to look at something else that controls your mortgages, your job market, and your government spending, and you have no say in who runs it. So next week, we're going to be having a look at the most powerful institution that you've never voted for, okay? Remember to comment to prompt, all right? Bitcoin, money, speculative asset, or elaborate illusion. What are the three functions? Make your case. Talk to me about it. Let me see what your points of view are. Otherwise, hey, kōrera, have a fantastic day. I'm Econ Teach NZ. I will see you next time.